It has been a long time since I did an update on my watch collection, and things have changed dramatically. So today I'm going to go through why all these watches are here and talk about why one thing is not present: 0 mechanical watches, and why I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and get started. I guess we should probably start this video talking about not having any mechanical watches. First and foremost, I wear a watch so that I don't get distracted by my phone, which gives me actual, accurate, up-to-the-minute time, and I mean within milliseconds. When I wear a watch like this, which has multiband 6 and is literally milliseconds off the true time every day without any distractions whatsoever, it's a benefit to me as someone who's trying to be productive. At the core of it, these tools I can depend on. These tools have multiple functions that are useful to me day to day without being distracting. That's the reason why I go with quartz and I go with digital from time to time. These are important to me. And also the cost, I mean, the fact that I can get something looking so nice at a reasonable price is fantastic. And if you were to find a mechanical movement even remotely close to the accuracy of a quartz watch, and I'm not talking about the multiband 6, I'm talking about this $50 Casio Duro, you're talking multiple thousands of dollars, maybe even close to 5,000. Serious high premium price, and one magnet or a couple of bad drops and that is instantly down to 0. God forbid you have to repair one, because that cost can be more than my collection itself. I'm not going to say that people shouldn't buy mechanical watches. They are jewelry, and I think it's wonderful that they exist, and I'm glad they do, but they're not for me. So, this is the definition of, like function over form, right? So I got this watch, and it didn't come like this. If you're seeing this module and you're a watch person, you're like, wait a second, that doesn't come in steel, or at least not this way. And you're right, it doesn't. So this is actually, and I'll show you the model right here, a tide and moon phase G-Shock square. And I like this version quite a bit because it has multiband 6, it has solar, it has all of the things that you can get in a rather generic watch without being Bluetooth. Doesn't need to be connected to anything, right? So we have 5 alarms, we have stopwatch, we have all of those things that are really, really good. And the one thing that sucked about it is the band was awful. In fact, I'm going to show you a much cheaper watch made by Casio that has a significantly better band than it came with. It was very uncomfortable in the heat, and this is so much nicer. And it gets really humid and hot here in Virginia. So I absolutely love this watch. It's a fantastic piece, and was way worth what? It was like the $30 or $40 or $50 that I paid to get this kit on AliExpress. Very inexpensive, very, very nice. And of all the G-Shocks, it's still the right size, right? It's just kind of kissing that edge of being too big, kind of like the Casio Duro, but absolutely wearable, and I love this thing. It's just a really good workhorse, just a great all-around watch that I know is always second accurate. In fact, we're going to show you another watch a little bit later. They are literally on the exact tick with each other because they're both multiband 6. There is a certain satisfaction to having accurate timepieces, and yeah, you got to have one G-Shock, and if you're going to have one, the original is best, but probably get the module with the multiband 6. It's just such a nice feature. And solar, of course, got to get that. Most of these watches are quartz solar. You're going to see that a lot, and that's a really important thing to me. Tell me it's not satisfying seeing 2 perfectly synchronized watches. Both of these watches are multiband 6. Both of them are made by Casio, the G-Shock, of course. And this one really just kicked this entire watch thing off for me. I said, if there's only one, this is probably it. The only thing that's ever been a drawback with it is it doesn't have enough adjustments. If it just had one more, it would be perfect. I'm kind of like right in that in-between phase. Now you can see I've loved on this watch a little bit. This is a titanium bracelet, sapphire crystal lens, and these things can be had for less than $200. Look at that starburst kind of solar background, and it even has a decent backlight. This is just the perfect combination of form and function. I love this watch so much. If I lost it, I would replace it immediately. It's probably the one and done watch for me as a functional human being that also does appreciate something looking really, really nice. This is it. I love it so, so much. I'll put the listing here, so in case you're trying to find this watch, I get a lot of questions when I wear it. It is an import from Japan. They don't sell it here in the general market. You kind of have to find it either on eBay or the listing on Amazon will ship it from Japan. But yeah, these are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I cannot say enough. Now be careful, there are different variations, some of which are quite a bit bigger. This also changed things dramatically for me because I realized even though I technically can wear something like the Duro, it's a little bit big for my wrist. The size on this was perfect, and it kind of kicked me off looking for nicer solar quartz movements that kind of filled all those other niches, but were in the right size. We're going to talk about that a little bit later and what brand I really found that nailed it like perfectly. So this watch, if it was only one, this would be it. Remember I was saying that there was a better watch band than the one that came with this? This is the watch, okay? So this is not a G-Shock, but it certainly looks like it could be a G-Shock. And the base model for this, I hope it's still under $40. The orange one is quite a bit cheaper. These are actually lumed hands, and we'll do a lume test towards the end of the whole thing. If you want to skip, you can go right to that. But this one is more expensive by a lot. It's like $30 more, but I wanted to have the white because I think it's a little bit more generic. But you can have this model for like, I think it was like $31 when I bought it. And what's cool about this is it has the 5 alarms, it has the stopwatch, it has the timer, it has all of the things you want, right? And without the second hand, it's no different than some of the chronographs that don't use a second hand that are mechanical, right? There's no movement to be seen. And the cool thing about this and why I love it so much, I sold all of my Casio models because this just does a better job for less money. For one thing, if you want the solar variation, you're going to spend maybe 4 times what this costs, and it requires Bluetooth connectivity, and it's really spotty with their app. Their app just absolutely sucks. I found this to be more legible. I hate that word. It's hard to say. Legible? Yeah. And it just works so well. This is my ultimate beater watch. It's got all of the functions of many of the digital, but has the still like quick like glance, I can tell what time it is kind of aesthetic as well. It's just the hybrids are kind of where my head is at when it comes to Casio. It's what they do so incredibly well, and this is probably their cream of the crop in my opinion. Can you go with the Casio? Sure, yeah, you'll have more waterproof rating and maybe it's more drop resistant, but like at the price difference, you can have like 4 of these for the same price. I want something I don't have to worry about. And they both still have the same plastic case, basically, and the same resin crystal. So you may as well get the less expensive model because they're both going to scratch about the same. That's just my opinion. This is my kick around watch. I can beat the crap out of it. I don't care. And it just works, and it works, and it works. And I love the fact that it has that solar as well. Definitely recommend it. Probably my favorite, one of my favorite budget watches that exist out there. Now, speaking of budget watches that are not budget watches, okay, so the AE1200 or the Casio Royale is, in my opinion, the quintessential best digital watch in the entire world, period. You name me any watch that has as much functionality for $20. 100 meters of water resist. Excellent backlight on this thing, okay? excellent look, a beautiful look, in fact. It has 5 alarms. It has multiple time zones, and it actually can have the time listed in 2 different places at the exact same time. Stopwatch, timer. You have all of the functionality you want in a sub $20 package. It is I would say, I know there's the original, and I know for when it comes to nostalgia, that's probably going to trump it. But when we're talking about modern digital watches, there is nothing better than the AE1200. Full stop. It just doesn't exist. Everything else is either more expensive, worse looking, or just not as good. Like, period. It's just not as good. Now, I have spent over $200 to soup the heck out of this thing. So this is an SEX mod case. So unlike the last one I showed you where it screws into the plastic, it goes into the plastic pieces. This is actually a steel case with the module that's actually installed inside. It is a titanium back cover, sapphire crystal, and steel bracelet. And this is a fantastic watch. I wear it a ton. In fact, of all the digital watches, this one comes with me the most because no one questions it. I never have to worry about it walking off my wrist in places where that might occur. And it just has so much functionality. I like it so much, even when I bring nice watches, this is usually always my backup. Either that one or one of these two is usually the one I go for. But for some reason, I just love the look of this so much. And with the sapphire crystal, it's actually more durable than this one because it still has the resin. Although this has raised edges, so it makes it a little bit easier. But with sapphire crystal steel case, I'm so happy with this watch. I cannot say enough. And I'm probably going to buy a couple more to have because they're just amazing, and they're incredible gifts on top of everything else. I cannot say enough. It's probably the best watch under $20, but let me recommend you not get the ones with the steel band and the faux steel paint job. Get the black, always the black. It's less than 20 bucks, probably the best watch in the entire world, dollar for dollar. That's not an exaggeration at all. Okay, now when I made my last video, I actually already owned this watch. I just never talked about it because I kind of put it in a different category in my head. I got this for a couple of reasons. The first one is vital monitoring. So it does a very good job giving you a reasonable approximation for blood oxygen, heart rate, and a bunch of other metrics that are relatively useful. So if you want to use it for that purpose, it does a pretty good job. This, of course, is the Instinct 2 Solar. So I got this version instead of the more expensive ones because unlike those, this can basically never be plugged in, and as long as you leave it in battery saver mode, it will function perfectly. So what I do is I leave this, if I'm going to kind of set this up, I put the case by the window, always charging. When I take it out of the case, it was actually at 0 before. When I take it out of the case, I'll wear it. I always leave it in the base battery saver mode. And when I need the functions like GPS, I turn those on for a period of time and then I always turn it back off. I also have a lock so that it won't accidentally depress, which is another cool feature. There's a ton of stuff you can do with these watches. People use them for tracking their workouts and so many other things. I use it to have something in the outdoors for navigation. I use it for metrics. It's a good way to check blood oxygen if you're concerned that someone, like especially when COVID was around, it was a good early indicator to go to the hospital. So that was one of the reasons I ended up getting one. I wanted it because I wanted to get an early warning sign, and it did a good enough job, and I've tested it compared to actual blood oxygen counters to be reasonable enough to see in any moment whether I needed to worry or not. So I like this watch for a lot of different reasons. I do think that the less expensive Instinct 2 Solar is actually the way to go for most people unless you're genuinely using it for the GPS function and you need the actual map image. The higher end Phoenix, whatever, 7 or 8, I don't know what number it's at now, they're great, but they're really expensive, and they are probably going to run out of battery, even with solar, because of how much they drain, whereas this display does not drain nearly as much energy. So for that reason, it's in this collection. I got the blue version, not because I wanted the blue necessarily, but because the price was so insane, I couldn't turn it down. This was only $230, which was like $160 less than MSRP. And I'm like, is this a scam? Hey, I mean, I can always, return it because it's Amazon and all of that stuff. Turns out it was the real deal. It just was one of the last models from some distributor out in the UK. And yeah, I was really pleased to have it. So really great watch. Keep an eye out for sales on this, especially if they ever come out with an Instinct 3, because this is already really, really good. For that purpose, although technically not really a watch, it's much closer to a watch than some of these other smartwatches out there, which I'm not a big believer in because you have to charge them every single day. I have enough devices that need to do that. This one never needs to be charged. All right, so this next one is another titanium case, and this is from Big Idea Designs. Now, I don't know if this particular model is available anymore, but what I like that they do is they have a field watch style, but with a rotating bezel that allows you to kind of use it as a timer. And I use them regularly, and I prefer having a bezel because I just kind of have to keep track of how long I'm spending on something to not get lost in whatever I'm doing. I'm very distractible. So for me, having a little quick timer that I can just take care of things, it's really, really helpful. So I like that a lot about this watch. It has a little date there in the window. It's a screw down crown. And yeah, solid watch. Got to tell you though, as we progress through this collection, this one has fallen pretty far down on my list of watches that I wear because I have others that I like so much better because of their lume. This is really mediocre lume by comparison to some of the ones I'm going to show you. And when we do our lume test at the very end, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, the last one before we get to Vaer. This was the biggest discovery I had in recent memory. I got chills when I saw this in a store. I have been looking for a replacement for this watch for a really long time. So this is the one I wore for a really long time. It was a gift. I do need to change out the battery. Not a big deal. I just haven't done that. And I also kind of damaged the little spring bars a little bit. So I basically wore this a ton for years and years and years. I love this watch. And when I went to go get a replacement for it, I looked on eBay, I looked everywhere I could find, and the cheapest one I found was like $180. It was ridiculous. And I'm literally dropping off stuff to give away at this local thrift store. And in the case, I swear, was this watch basically perfectly new, like brand spanking new. And I'm like, I cannot believe that that's in that case. I mean, literally brand new with the original band and everything. I was just like, really? 35 bucks? Take my money, please. I always liked the original band. I think I eventually put a Velcro band on this one. I wear it from time to time. I leave the sticker on because it's a fun reminder. But this is such a cool watch. When I got it, I didn't like it. And then I wore it, and I wore it some more, and I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with analog watches in general. It was really the first analog watch that I genuinely wore every day. And I love the big, crazy numbers, and the lume is awesome on this thing. Anyway, great watch. Can't say enough. This is pure nostalgia for me, and it will stay forever in my 10 or 12 watches because, oh, man, what a find. Such a cool watch. I cannot say enough. If I was going to design one, it would be something like this without maybe the numbers, but more of these big fat white sections, and then all of those would be lumed as well. That's the only thing I would change. I love this watch. I cannot say enough. You can't get it anymore, so don't even try. And I wouldn't pay the prices that people were asking for them, but it's so nostalgic, and I was really happy to be able to find it. Now let's talk about Vaer watches. Now, after getting the Casio Lineage watch, I really started to look at quartz solar movements with really good finishing in the right sizing and the right design that I was looking for. Clearly kind of marrying my functionality with aesthetics. And I wanted something that really popped, that really had that X factor. I checked through Tissot, I checked through all of the Citizen watches. Yeah, I was not impressed. The look on them, they're really big. I just don't understand why they can't make clean, simple designs. Anyway, I found Vaer, and my biggest problem with Vaer is that I like every single model they make. That's my biggest problem. And then the fact that they have so many choices, right? They have different sizing in the same watch. Like you can get this size, which I believe is 40 mil, and then there's a 44 mil if you want a bigger version. Like they have that kind of combination in everything, and then you can pick where it's assembled, USA, Switzerland, or Japan, depending on where it is. And then there's just so many things. It was just too easy. It was kind of one of these places like you have to be careful, because if I go on there the next time, there's a good chance I'm walking away with another watch. That being said, I don't think I'll regret it. And here is why. They're quartz solar movements. They have a lifetime warranty. They have incredible lume. Every one of these has incredible finishing on top of it. So domed sapphire crystal, proud bezels, screw down crowns, stainless steel all the way around, easy to deploy, removable bands, so you can swap those out really easy. They've just nailed it. And it's just different enough. It's just different enough that you can tell it from other brands. Even like they've just gotten it right, because let's be real, if you want a dive watch, there's only so many ways to construct it that haven't been done yet, and they're probably not going to look good, especially because we're kind of programmed now to want to see watches look a certain way. So if it doesn't look like that, it's going to be like, ooh, that's really risque. And these watches just about hit that sweet spot for me personally. Now, when they sent me the first watch, which was the one of their best selling, this is their standard field watch. It's probably my least favorite, or at least it was when I first got it. But I started wearing it, and I will say the thing that really pops for this is the lume. I really want to show this. I'm going to do a full beam shot of everything, but you guys got to see this lume. It's absolutely insane. Let me turn down the light a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. That's ridiculous. Now, I will say that it's interesting, and I wanted to note that the blue one over here has a completely different lume than the black, and the black is quite a bit brighter. But when it comes to the lume on this field watch, it's ridiculous. It is every bit as good as some of the most expensive watches I've seen. I'm so impressed with the lume on these watches. It's kind of amazing. Now, it's obviously less so with the racing version, the chronograph, but these other three, these three right here, just so good. So they didn't skimp on any of the other parts. And I also just want to highlight the ones that I got are all USA assembled. Right, as of right now, there are unfortunately no quartz solar movements made here in America, and a lot of these components, you know, they have to get them elsewhere. Switzerland and other places. That's normal. I like that they've taken the approach of just being like, hey, this is where it's from, this is where we got it, we assemble it here, and just being transparent about where all those components are from. That's a bit different. That is the X factor that I was looking for. And that combined with all of the options for the bands, it was just too easy. It was just too easy to get hooked. And speaking of hooked, when I opened this out of the box, I was like, oh, that's so pretty. Yeah, I couldn't stop wearing it. I wore this, I think, for a couple of weeks before swapping it out. The only problem I have with the Panda coloration is that the hands themselves blend in too much with the background. I would love for that very small end piece right there on the chronograph section, as well as the minute hand, to be like orange maybe, just something, some distinction so I can tell where it is, because it does kind of blend in a little bit. That's my thought about it. But overall, an incredible watch, just incredible watches in general. They don't just make quartz solar though. If you are someone who does want a reasonably priced mechanical, they also offer these in mechanical and non-solar quartz. Like, there's so many levels and so many different customizations. I think the thing I want to say when we finally do a video on Vaer is build what you want, right? And pay for what you want. Because they have bands, you can choose, you can get 2 bands when they come in. Usually they come with the Trop band, which is not bad, but it's not, by far not their best. They come with this excellent cloth band that goes with it, so all the watches come with 2 bands. And you definitely want to check out their silicone bands, because they have that nice little locking section so it fits right into that tab, and it just, nothing flops out. I hate that stuff. So I cannot recommend enough getting one of these silicone bands for it that matches your watch. So I have the blue one here for the blue solar diver. Just listen to this. No movement, just the quality of this. I mean, these have been reviewed a lot. We're going to do a separate video on them. I just want to say I'm very happy with what this is. And after wearing them, the fact is I couldn't go back to a larger watch. They've ruined me. I'm kind of in my sweet spot right now, and they just look so damn good. Let me put this on real quick. No, I mean, I'm just so pleased with this as part of my collection. My only issue is they keep coming out with new designs I want. Like, I just saw their new chronograph that's green and black. I'm like, oh, I want that too. So yeah, that's the biggest problem I have with Vaer, is that I keep seeing them come out with new models that I want, and they sell out because they only have so many made. You know, they're USA assembled, and so they only can make so many at a time, and they're growing very quickly. So love these watches, cannot say enough. I could go on longer, but I think since we're going to have a separate video, let's go ahead quickly to the LUME shot, and then I'll let you guys go. Okay, so check this out. So this one actually does have a little bit of LUME. The new tactical one, which has a flat sapphire crystal, has probably the best LUME out of all of these, although the field watch is really good as well. And just a little bit on the racing one. And then you can kind of see. Check that out. Pretty darn cool. But you can see the difference. And if I go and I show you this one, here, let me do it on this. Where's the, here it is. This one is the Casio Duro. What's great is you can see it's already starting to darken, and these are still very bright, even just in a few seconds. Big difference in quality, but overall, I'm just so pleased with what I have so far in this collection. There's a couple of watches I think will end up leaving, but for now, I think we're in a pretty good place with this 12-watch collection. Is there something I should be taking a look at that I'm not looking at right now? I guess that's my question for you guys. If you have a watch that you really think I should be looking at, let me know down in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll talk again soon.